side has been able to find a big advantage just yet, but whoever destroys the enemy Nexus at the end of this game will be on match point for a spot in the final.
I'm looking at these defaults here. Heretics already pushing a lot of control into this bot side. Set your Heimerdinger up for success, and hopefully that will get paid back. Let your Ashe as well have a decent enough time of things, but bots are looking for a Heimerdinger that unfortunately is no longer there. I also didn't realise, as spectators, we get an indicator on where the Janna queue's going. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's a new thing, isn't it? I haven't seen Janna in a while, but that was neat. Yeah. Anyway, I think it's smart that they bring the Orianna down, because even though there might not be presence from Heretics in those bushes anymore, the turrets are certainly going to be placed, so you do need to set it up in advance, and Heretics have one of two choices to make. They either stay to make sure the turrets also stay alive, to manipulate the wave as they want, and to get that bush control uncontested, or they go back, which is what they did, and they just pray that Barca don't face check the bushes and are forced to leash. They end up getting the turrets, and now it's a little bit harder for Heretics to impose their own advantages because they don't have control over the third bush, but they're still doing a great job at that.
Both of our AD carries have gone for the longsword triple pot, so damage that is taken is going to take a little while before it starts to stick. You're waiting for those potions to get depleted, but once they're gone, we don't have a Doran's Blade for the on-hit health back. It is base health is your regen, and that is all. So it's going to be a war of attrition, a game of cooldowns to see which of these two supports can bully out the other ADC better.
And that makes a lot of sense, though, because usually you only bring Doran's Blade into lanes that can kill you with burst, when you need the HP to actually survive the laning phase, and that isn't really the case in this situation. You're supposed to play at range, you're supposed to play for short trades, so if that blade, that Doran's Blade, ended up being relevant, you would just have way less sustain to play the lane throughout.
Look at your junglers. First is Hades already in. It's a Tribrush Scout from the sapling, so that they know they have a bit of more time for the Heretics before the Heretics jungler gets on in. Hades actually skipped his blue buff to put that sapling down. It doesn't look like it's going to end up paying off too much because there's a ward already in that river, so I think that they saw Hades put it in, and it just completely immunes any jungle pressure on the bot side.
But I think if we zoom out and have a look at this Barca composition in general, the final pick, the last pick of this Fiora for Dreedy, I think makes a lot of sense. You've already got a lot of disengage from that four-person core with the Janna as, hold on, we may be getting some action here. Stun Grenade not quite landing from Whiten, but it's a fair bit of damage traded back.
Yeah, that's going to keep happening in the bot lane. I don't think there's kill pressure necessarily from the Ashe and the Heimerdinger, at least not pre 6, so Deadly and Ephias will just have to farm under turret. But you were talking about that Fiora, and I think that's a great point to bring up, because she is very good in these situations when the rest of the team has enough disengage that they don't have to play the fights as the enemy team wants to, but Jack Spectre gets caught!
He's dead! He's dead! Howling Gale into Piltover Peacemaker and a headshot to finish him off.
That is surprising.
Flash plus Cleanse not even needed to be used by Deadly, where Flash and Heal used by Jack Spectre. This means that if there's any jungler that wants to go to that bot side, it's a significant advantage over for Barca. And we queried, why have we picked the Janna in this situation? We're being made to look a fool here, because they knew exactly why that Janna was getting locked in.
Yeah, those long-range Howling Gales can be paired up so effectively with the skill shots that Caitlyn needs to hit in the early game to do significant damage onto your opponents.
Yeah, it was a weird pick at first, but it is paying off dividends, at least in this situation. But again, I want to talk about this Fiora as a pick, even though the action is in the bot lane, because, again, she's very important for the Barca win condition. This Caitlyn, she isn't supposed to get ahead. She's supposed to be even in lane at least, and to give up a lot of pressure to be relevant later. But this Fiora, she's completely dominating on her own, and she's still going to be dominating as the game goes on. So Dreedy has a lot on his shoulders, and right now he's delivering.
Can lunge himself away from Blue Razor as Heretics stacking up a pretty significant wave in the top side, pushing it into Dreedy's tower, but it's still the Fiora that has the CS advantage in the matchup, and she's going to be able to take over as it gets later. Hades thinking about a gank though. Ibo very low, but still has the flash available. Flash route, and he has no option to get out. Another kill for Barca.
Gorgeous execution. And now down on the bot side.
Elias
Wow.
forced to flash away the Ignite and is back to level up just in time as the summoner ticks down and keeps him alive. Jack Spectra dies as Deadly flashes forward. This is much better from Barca.
It's a game of margins down in the bot side. Elias lives because of a level up. Deadly flash advantage takes down Jack Spectra in exchange. It is so close to being a Heretics win, but instead Barca are the ones who come out on top.
Barca are just playing this lane much better, and it doesn't matter whether you're playing Ashen Heimerdinger and have all the wave control in the world. If you can't do anything over it, if you can't either force trades in your position, or you can't even kill the enemies that should definitely be dead in these situations, you should start rethinking the way you're playing the lane. You're probably taking the wrong steps and trying to get the wrong leads, and honestly, that Caitlyn Q should have never hit. But yeah, it just feels like Heretics aren't really paying attention to what the enemy champions are doing. They're trying to play this basically PvE, and they're getting punished for it.
And it's Barca getting out to a lead in the early game for the first time in this series. And this is where we were talking about Heretics being exploitable. It's in this early game, and if Barca can keep this pressure up, can keep accelerating through the game, they're going to be in a great spot. Dreedy, absolutely fine, isolated on the top lane. Deadly with 2 kills on a Caitlyn this early into the game. They might be looking for more. Jack Spectra caught out, pushed back into the waiting arms of Deadly. The Yordle snap trap not connecting onto the Ashe, but still pressure in the bot lane.
It just feels so weird that Hades is able to do this, because he did the same in the top side. He's just showed on a ward, and Heretics still didn't respect him. And right here, they don't respect the fact that the Maokai could be nearby, and Jack Spectra almost dies, but at least he's still alive to try to contest this wave right here. But it just feels like Hades is getting away with murder, and Heretics are just not able to keep up with the pace this Maokai is imposing.
This is the first time that we actually see our junglers move in to the bot side. So far, it has been pure 2v2 power. Deadly and Ephias outplaying in the side lane, putting a statement out in game number 3 that they are too to be respected, and taking your blind picks isn't as easy as you first might have imagined. And Barca as well, they seemingly have got everything from this draft. They got to counterpick mid, counterpick top, and counterpick support. They get a Maokai on top of that, who, yes, is nerfed on this patch, but still a very good tank. Overall, Barca, who came away with everything they wanted in the draft, have played out this early game exquisitely.
Oh, they have. They're literally playing towards their strengths in the way you said it. They just had counterpicks everywhere, and even though their lanes aren't exactly the most oppressive ones, you know that they're going to be relevant no matter what. While Heretics, especially in this bot side, they depend a little bit on what they could bring into the table during the laning phase. They are mis-executing. Zvyro, he's just trying to absorb pressure as well, and he's still a victor. He should be fine, but you know how explosive this Barcelona composition can actually be.
Okay, Heretics should get this Herald. We look at the minimap. Caitlyn is bot lane, not based, not making moves up toward this top side, where Heretics have sent both their bot laners up to the Herald. If they can just stall for a little bit, they're going to have a 5v4.
But Dreedy is starting to engage on them before they're going to have the chance. The Grand Challenge issued onto Iber, and the Nature's Grasp use as well, forcing the flash away from Blue Resort. Enchanted Crystal Arrow will hit onto Tuas and last a hell of a long time. The Herald going over, but not being picked up by Barca. That's a kill for Heretics, and the objective goes in their favor as well.
Yeah, you were extremely correct when you talked about this this Heretics setup for this first Herald, which isn't something we've seen so far during this series, but 2 hours could be caught.
Yeah, the beatdown from Trundle in the jungle, but Fias is doing a lot of shielding. It's not going to matter though, with Tuas falling down. Heretics not going down without a fight.
Heretics get yet another kill, and this is all because they probably realized that these Herald setups weren't great from them before. They also know that the Ashe isn't really someone who needs to hoard resources for herself. It's way more important that she can be a utility carry in these early stages of the game, in these stages where you can actually secure neutral objectives. And Barca, even though they had a great idea initially, they end up not getting whoever they want to. Blue Resort, great flash over the wall, and that arrow clipping 2 hours makes it so this Orianna never gets to position the ball in a way that can actually threaten the Heretics team. The steal is also amazing in this situation, and now that they have the Herald, they can kind of make up for what they've lost so far.
And it's not just the fact that the Herald went the way of Barca as well. It's that they committed Deadly to the bot lane turret, and he got 2 plates for it. We look at the discrepancy between these two ADCs. Magical Footwear just procced for Deadly. Full Gale Force finished for the Caitlyn versus a Noon Quiver and Cull for Jack Spectre. Every game he's opted into this Cull, just greeding the early stages, and now he could be punished once again. Hades is here, puts a control ward down, but they know that he's here.
This is the ultimate, flashes away from the stun grenade and locks down 2 members of Heretics, knocks back Jack Spectre into the ace in the hole, and Defias with the kill.
Jack Spectre had flash. That... Okay, I mean, Heretics didn't have to die in that situation, and again, the Maokai seems to be exactly where he should be, and Heretics are still not respecting that, so Barca are being extremely proactive in a great way, playing around those lane counter picks that should actually come into effect very early, and even though Heretics are, again, showing their display of macro to be somewhat superior to the enemy, they are not able to keep up with these early rotations, because the Maokai is very punishing in that regard. So if the game stays like this as we head into mid-game eventually, I think Barca will probably have a hard time making things happen from then on, but still, if they have the lead in terms of resources, they should still be extremely scary, especially in the neutral objective setup, so they shouldn't be too worried at this point in the game with those same objectives.
And you can see both of these teams, I guess, a little bit hesitant to head toward those objectives. The Drake is still live. Hades is now pathing up toward this top side. Blue Resort's here to answer.
Grand challenge issued onto Ibo. The Vitals being procced, but Dreedy knocked into the wall. Is that he won't be able to find the kill, and Blue Resort here just going to help out and take out the Rift Herald. Summon that forward. They may be looking for a dive here as Vyro is roaming over.
A little bit of time before the Orianna gets here. They get the plates. They don't look like they want too much more, but it's Barca who can force. They've got that shockwave ready to go. Can they find an engage?
Hades jumping forward, but he's kind of isolated here and takes a hell of a lot of damage in reply. Chaos Storm and Subjugate invested, but the Barcelona jungler can walk out.
I do want to quickly mention that, yes, a first move was from Zyru and he was present, but I don't think Heretics wanted to dive at all. I just think they wanted to share the resources with the mid laner, because getting a Herald down mid is extremely hard because it's way easier to counteract and it's way easier to not get enough value from it. And in the top side, you can probably get 2 to 3 plates without much question. And if you get your mid laner there, he can share some of the spoils. He can get ahead of the enemy mid laner as well without you actually having to risk anything. So in that scenario, it's good for Heretics to do these kinds of things. But again, it could have been done in a better way, and they could have threatened the dive if they decided to play it a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, Blue Resort going for a little bit of thievery in the topside jungle of Barca, and the game at a fairly even state. The Charlie Chrysalara going wide, but here comes White in, and to us, there is nowhere for you to go. Flashes over the wall just in time. The CC not chained enough to take out the Orianna.
Yeah, you could see that Heretics were kind of like, is he going to flash ever? But by the time he's got to being CC'd, he's actually baited them all onto the right side of that wall, and the flash actually, buys him enough space to get out to safety. I think Dreedy should be fine. He still has Riposte ready if he needs it, and we're starting to see now that Barca's lead has slowly dwindled. They built up a really good advantage for themselves early on, but that's been largely neutralized. That bot lane hasn't been a snowball.
Blue Resort now being jumped onto by 3 members of Barca. The Nature's Grass uses well.
Wow.
The Shockwave doesn't quite pull back the trundle, but we will fall into a grave all the same.
I do feel like Heretics should have thought about setting up for this next dragon a little bit earlier, because now you know for sure that it's going to be a point of a contest. And I mean, Deadly is still getting all this gold, and he's still getting this far ahead when he shouldn't have been. But Heretics aren't really thinking about it at the moment, and Ibo can be punished either way, because this Fiora, she's gonna be strong no matter what. This Caitlyn, not so much. You could have punished her in the early game, but the way you played lane, the way you're not really trying to get these early dragons, the way you're not really outpacing the enemy jungler, it just feels like Heretics are basically forfeiting this early game in favor of stronger late game, and I don't think it's that linear.
And the telltale for any AD carry feeling confident in their build path is that they never finish tier 2 boots. because there's always a bigger ticket item to get once you get past the early game. Berserker Greaves are such a great opener to just allow you a bit of laning staying power, but after that, it feels so rough to spend 800 gold on an item that's not working towards your Infinity Edge power spike. BF for Deadly in the inventory could well be Stormrazor.
Yeah, especially in a champion like Caitlyn that uses AD so well, she doesn't really need that attack speed to be a menace in these kinds of trades, so it's just perfect for Deadly, the way he's playing the lane, the way he's itemizing. It just feels like this Caitlyn is never not going to be a problem, and Heretics are just going to have too many things in their hands, and that's never a good place to be in, as this bot lane turret is finally going to be taken down.
Yeah, first brick did go over to the Gnar, importantly, so that Herald did end up having some impact and managed to actually make the difference, because if Deadly was getting this first brick gold, it could be a lot more devastating for the Heretics to play up against. My question now is, how are Barca going to move around this Caitlyn? Where are they going to put the most fed member on their team in order to continue a snowball to facilitate more gold going into her back pocket? Because we all know Caitlyn hits that mid-game power trough like no other AD carry, honestly. Fortunately, they've got so far ahead in the early game that she's just going to be probably even in the mid game, as opposed to being super far behind that we would expect in an even situation. But now it's Heretics who actually are forcing priority in the mid lane and making sure that they're the ones controlling lanes.
I feel like they can afford to do that because of the Herald, but they could be collapsed upon.
Yeah, Hades there throwing out the Nature's Grasp, locking down two members of Heretics. But there's no one there to back him up with the damage, and it's a fair chunk thrown back into him.
Arrow?
Enchanted Crystal Arrow onto Deadly, but he's a little bit too far away for Ivor. He was thinking about it. He was thinking about going Gnar and diving forward, but Heretics, they get the Herald charge, but they're not able to take out the tower.
Yeah, which is fine at this point. I feel like the damage is more than good enough, given how easy it is for them to get this mid lane prio. But I do want to quickly touch upon this Deadly problem, which, yes, of course, the mid game isn't perfect for the Caitlyn, but it's not like she can deal much damage into a Victor and Nash that will outrange her.
And no flash for 2 hours and caught out in his own jungle. This is good from Heretics. FS trying to get the flash shield, but a little bit too late.
And this is what we've credited. Oh, okay.
He's fine, Rue.
HP's above 0, HP's above 0. This is the play that we've credited Heretics for so frequently, is their ability to play 2 lanes. They punish 2 hours on his roam down to the bot side and the lane assignment from Barca. It's not bad from Barca as their lane assignment, it's 2 hours in particular who just takes a slightly greedy path down to the bot side and gets caught out for it. Heretics' late game and mid game understanding of how to play the map is nearly unrivaled.
No, I completely agree, even though, like, at least last game, we saw kind of the opposite. They kind of got a little bit greedy trying to get that 2-lane setup, and they skipped a couple steps. They didn't really set up the vision. They didn't really have all the waves in the same wavelength, I guess. They weren't coordinated in any way, shape, or form, and so they ended up being punished for it. But this game, at least they're doing a better job at that. Even if they can't force fights outright, they can still force these picks, and they can still leave Barca with no way of actually gaining control of the jungle.
Ooh, a little bit of a sombrero from 2 hours there. It's not going to mean too much. I like this Mikhail's Blessing first item for a Feist, because if you look at what Heretics have got in terms of their long-range engage, in terms of their pick potential, that Asher is a massive part of it. And if you can take that CC off someone, it's so easy for you to then re-engage with all the abundance of CC that you've got for Barca.
We are seeing a worrying trend from 2 hours on this Ori. There have been a couple shockwaves that just haven't quite hit the marker. If that shockwave hits, it's a capitalizer, and Heretics probably end up dying. It's the second time that this has happened, but of course we all know you just need to hit one.
Yeah, you do.
Throwing back Dreedy as here comes Hades, and the Gnar is in a sticky situation. We haven't had too much action in the top lane, but Dreedy will be very happy to pick up that kill.
We haven't had too much action, but we have had Ibo doing this consistently. He got first turret, and then he just stayed in top lane. He's not really trying to get stuff elsewhere. Yeah, he moved with Heretics when he was supposed to take down the mid lane turret, but now Hades is going too far.
A little bit funky. The phase rush actually gets him out for a fair bit, but not enough to keep him alive. It's getting a little bit sloppy there, going for an invade where you don't really have the backup.
Yeah, and speaking of sloppy, we were also discussing the Orianna, but her role in this composition is not to hit those shockwaves to start team fights. She needs to wait. All she needs to do is wait for Heretics to actually run into her, and she's not doing that. 2 hours is not really trying to disengage from most of these fights. He's trying to start chaos. He's trying to get picks, and you're never going to do that into that composition. That completely outranges you. You don't really have anyone to give that backline access for your ball, and because of that, you're just hindered as a champion. You're forced to play one playstyle and one playstyle only, and that is being showcased time and time again.
you guys at home can't see this, but me and Middlecop both just let out a equal sigh of despair as we saw the cloud tile appear on the wall. Nobody in this cast is a fan of the Cloud Soul, but what we are fans of are Fioras and finding plays in the side lane. Dreedy right here, obviously getting a 2v1 kill, which is only going to aid his ability to find side lane pressure later and later on. And this is an issue that we've seen from both teams now. Once again, getting caught out.
Dreedy, though, dashes full, gets hit by the enchanted crystal arrow from downtown. Oh, Jack Spectra, that was beautiful.
Dreedy just lunges into it unexpectedly. It just makes no sense how that arrow actually hit. It was just perfect. The stars aligned, the Ashe arrow hits, the side laner is dead, and look at the pressure they can get with that kill. Instantly, Ivo starts shoving down bot lane. White and Jack Spectra getting control of the mid lane wave. Blue Razor is completely denying all of these camps from the side of Hades, and Barca just lose all the tempo they had on the map.
We have a Gangplank cosplay from Deadly in the bot lane here, with as many crit cloaks as the inventory will allow, making sure that if he's going to hit a crit, if he's going to hit somebody, it better be a crit, because he's looking for an absolute boatload of damage right now that we sort of missed. If we look back to where Deadly was about 10 minutes ago, okay, no, we don't need to look back, because we're going to look back at this one. This is genuinely worth a slow-mo.
Wow.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And it's big, right? Because shutting down Dreedy in the side lane is something that Heretics need to do. Like, he's going to scale into an absolute monster if left unchecked.
Yeah, it's so hard to deal with this at this point, but I do want to focus the attention on the 2-item spike from Jack Spectra, because again, he is an absolute monster. He is also that hyper carry for his team, and people usually forget that about Ashe. It's not that she's a utility carry. It's that she can also become very scary later on in the game, especially when she can play at the range that she wants to. And yes, the Caitlyn is a bit scary in those situations, especially if you try to trade auto attacks with her, but you don't have to in this situation, because you're going to have the Maokai diving in with you without any follow-up whatsoever. The Orianna, you can easily play around her sphere as well, because she won't be focusing it on you. She'll be focusing it on your front line to try to disengage from it. And that leaves the Ashe with so much space to deal all the damage she wants to.
It's a little bit aggressive from Ivo, and Dreedy is more than happy to respond with damage of his own. That last Vital Proc, crucially, not going down just yet, means that the Gnar is actually doing a pretty decent job. These lunges dealing so much damage to Ivo, whose health bar blinking, but still there.
And you can see, even with an item advantage, it is the Gnar who's struggling. Has Black Cleaver, has Trinity Force, and even has got boots to, add on top of that. Spare cloth armor too. No Ravenous finished yet for Dreedy, and he's still winning out in the side lane. Now, the advantage for Dreedy here, or the disadvantage rather, is that he burns Ghost, where Flash is still available for Ivo. So those side lane kills are going to become a little bit more difficult to try and chase down. But we've actually reached a mid-game state where neither team is particularly ahead, and this is the point in the game where I'm just loving my stocks in Heretics, because they are so good. Again, I cannot emphasize this enough, at playing two lanes and generating advantages through vision and objective setup.
Yeah, but again, I don't want you to forget how badly they did that last game. So we still need to think that Heretics can fumble the execution at this point, but it doesn't seem like they want to, as FES gets a great Mikhail's Blessing here, and as long as Deadly gets to stay over these walls and just auto-attack and set up traps, Heretics can't really walk into the Baron as easily as they've tried to do previously. So what do they have to focus on right now? The dragons, but as long as Dreedy is playing the lane adjacent to the dragon, it's too scary!
Oh, Jack Spectra caught out!
Does he live?
Not going down, he does live, as the Nature's Grasp being used. That's a hell of a lot of cooldowns invested from Barca.
but I think that's going to get them the dragon. It spawns in 30 seconds at the very minimum. It gets them priority around it. It may even get them this tier 1 turret as a baseline to go from. Actually, a really important move that we see from Barca. Yeah, don't stand on traps, honestly. Those are scary.
And this is the first time I'm actually seeing this Caitlyn build, but Tarek talked about it yesterday, and it's absolutely wonderful.
Ibo's just dead here. Slams 2 into the wall, actually dealing a fair bit of damage.
Is he?
Flashes back over as here comes Viru! The solo lanes of Heretics and a little bit of a sticky situation, but they're more than happy to play it out. Flashes over the wall and gets a kill around that Drake, and now priority secured back for Heretics.
Yeah, I was wrong on both counts. They don't get the dragon, they don't get the tier 1 turret. They're going to get one in top lane as recompense, but 2 Hours didn't have the teleport to join the squad, and it's Heretics again playing those 2 lanes well. They pivoted their attention out of the top lane. They're happy to sacrifice the tier 1 turret in exchange for getting kills and a dragon.
And I think the key thing that we've seen from Heretics is that there haven't been as many mid-game mistakes, right? There haven't been these oversteps randomly stepping into the jungle or walking into Barca that can then be punished. This has been a much lower kill game, and it's favoring the team that we're talking about having that stronger macro.
Yeah, and Heretics likes to play it slow. They don't like to be punished with their over-aggression, and I don't think Barca have the tools to do so. And what I was going to say is that as long as the Fiora is playing adjacent to the objective you want to take, you're fine with playing those 2 lanes, because you know it isn't the Fiora that's actually pushing the lane that you can't answer to. So as long as the Orianna is far away from the rest of the team, Heretics can just jump in, force Dreedy to either die or to take too long of a time to get to the other side of the map, and they get the objective, they get the team fight, because Barca aren't really good at fighting either unless they get that good disengage very, very early, and it just seems like Heretics can take away the mid game as they please.
I want to spend a little bit of time just giving credit over to both of the mid laners, because every game neither one of them has been given a lot of resources, neither one of them have looked particularly poor, but they're always dominating team fights.
Oh, wow.
My word, Jack Spectra! Okay, Shilbo keeps him alive, but once again, Barca just willing to throw out these ultimates in the mid lane. Ibo only gets 1 back with the Gnar. Heretics, they can't get the engage off.
And just by a hair's breadth, really, it's Barca that are able to get away. Both flashes from the bot lane is burned. That's actually very crucial. Janna Flash is a pivotal tool in these team fights, because if she can dodge out on some skill shot or on some port of CC, she can then give that tool, the Mikhail's blessing, to somebody who's not able to get away from it. And now that both of the bot laners have no flash, they both have to be that extra layer of cautious about how they're playing out the fights.
However, crucially, Shockwave and Monsoon are both still available. So if Heretics do overforce these team fights without waiting for Barca to overcommit, without waiting for Barca to actually step their foot where they shouldn't, they can still get severely punished. So Heretics know they need to keep their distance. Heretics know they can't overforce fights regardless of how many summoner spells they actually manage to take away from the enemies.
Oh, what did we say in the draft? Whoever gets to the objective first has already won because of the zone control, right? We have Heimerdinger now about to set up turrets. We've got Heretics in a great position in the river and just making every single face check so difficult for Barca. They feel happy to start up this Baron. They've got saplings to check every single time, but look how they have to check. They have to check into volleys, check into rockets, check into turrets, lasers as well. Nature's Grasp is called and they're going forward.
Yeah, but they're not going forward. They're not able to lock down and take out Heretics, but there's enough damage dropped onto Blue Resort that I think better of continuing that Baron. We haven't really had that big team fight yet. We haven't yet seen these ultimates blown in catastrophic circumstances.
I feel like Heretics could have turned right there, and they could have tried to play around the cooldowns that were thrown in by Barca, but they still did a great job at just disengaging and not really losing anything because of that Baron force, and now they're playing towards the 2 lanes around the Baron, and they're also doing that perfectly. It's not like Barca has any chance at this point to contest these kinds of places, and yes, they have the Nature's Grasp. Yes, they have the Howling Gale, and that's a lot of range and a lot of CC and displacement that could initiate team fights, but realistically, Heretics don't really care about that as long as they just stay away from the enemy and don't let them stay in range to auto-attack you.
The next 3-4 minutes are actually going to be very intensive for both of these teams. Neither of their top laners have TP, But what we've seen is both teams send those top laners down to the bot side. So if Heretics, for example, start up a Baron, they either are going to have the control of bot lane so they can have Ibo move first, which is the instance in this specific case, or they're going to have to admit that it's a 4v4.
Oh, Hades going very deep to get an engage off onto Heretics. Whiten flashing away, but the Maokai is now being forced back. Again, a lot burned, a lot used, a lot invested, but no kills as a consequence.
Yeah, it's just so hard for these teams to interact with each other. The best you can hope for is the Gnar being close enough to actually force his ultimate, and of course he wasn't even present in this instance. Or you can hope for, on the side of Barca, for the Maokai to basically do the same and try to get a flank or be closer to the enemy backline. You're just gonna see both teams trying to burst each other at ranges that neither of them can hit, and unless someone missteps, this is just where we're gonna keep seeing, and it's gonna be about who gets first to these objectives.
3D? You're not winning this one, buddy. Ibo with a lot of damage from those hyperprocs, but with the reduced movement speed of the Mega Gnar, not quite in range to take down the Fiora. 2 Hours is here, though, maybe thinking about setting up a play, but that Gnar is incredibly tanky.
I wasn't expecting this side lane to be so pivotal. Heretics every single time have been, relying on the holding capabilities of Ibo, not his ability to take the 1v1, but now he's hit that dead man's plate, feels very confident. Every 30 seconds, we've been seeing this jostle for mid lane priority, and every single time it's being won out by Heretics. They then use that timer to go into the top side, go into the bot side on the last wave to secure themselves a dragon and good push around the Gnar. But now they've got 5 minutes of uncontested topside control, where Ibo is seemingly winning out in the 1v1. This could change though now, because Hullbreak has been picked up by Dreedy. But if they can just continue to play those two lanes where they push top and push mid and move into the jungle or move into the river, they're going to create so many questions for Barca.
Yeah, at this point, Ibo doesn't need to win the 1v1 anymore. I mean, he didn't need to before, but he was just doing it. But against the Hullbreaker, it's going to be increasingly difficult to do so. But touching upon the point that you called out about the mid-prio being so easy to guarantee by Heretics, it's not only a matter of, okay, they're the better team or they're setting up vision a lot better. No, it's the fact that this Victor was left unattended for the entire game, and he's so strong at clearing these waves, and no one can really contest that. Yes, there's a Caitlyn and Orianna, but they can't just press E and delete the entire wave. The Ashe can also poke you over the wave as well, and that's something the Caitlyn and the Orianna have a lot more struggles trying to do, so it just feels like Heretics have a better composition suited for this style of gameplay.
Oh, Dreedy maybe getting collapsed onto here. Issues a grand challenge onto Ibo, but dashes over the wall just in time.
Okay, and a rare whiff on the arrow there from Jack Spectra, preempting the lunge over the wall and potentially a chase down. But even with all of this priority set up around the bot side, Barca don't head towards the Baron. They clear out a little bit of vision, they put themselves a bit of a stamp in the river, but they don't start it up. They don't have the control, they don't have the confidence to step in and start hitting the big purple worm, where as soon as Heretics now have a slither of time, they're immediately back in the river, back controlling vision, and snubbing out anything that Barca have put down.
I feel like not only do they not have the control to do so, but they also don't have the composition to burst it down as effectively as they would like to, because, again, there's just so much long range from Jack Spectra and Whiten to stop these Baron takes if necessary, that it just becomes impossible for Barca to try to sneak this one.
And I want to look at Deadly's inventory right now, because that mid-game trough that the Caitlyn can fall into, well and truly over at this point. 4 items with that rapid fire cannon as well. If you Gale Force forward with a headshot, that is instantly 2/3 of a Squishy's HP.
Yeah, and Whiting, he's got himself a low health bar.
Oh! As Hades' health bar might be falling low, the Maokai is particularly tanky, but Ibo's chasing him down with the Hyperprocs. A teleport is going to come through here from Dreedy, as the Shockwave only connects onto Blue Resort. Grand Challenge issued and goes through Dreedy, but taken out as Deadly 1v1s Jack Spectra in the mid lane. Heretics, they are at a man disadvantage, but the health bars on Barca are very low.
Heretics had everything to actually manage to take this fight into their own hands, and they just fumbled the execution on the latter half of the same fight. It just felt like Barca couldn't have done anything to stop them the moment that arrow hit, because I don't know if you noticed, but Efias used the Mikhail's blessing on himself. He thought he was the one who's gonna get hit by the arrow, but the Maokai hitbox was this much bigger to actually take the arrow himself, as we're gonna see in the replay. And as soon as that happens, it just feels like, okay, Heretics can just burst down the Maokai and play around that, but Jack Spectra kind of gets lost in the way there, and he starts pivoting towards this mid lane, trying to help the Victor, who probably can handle this Caitlyn alone. And as soon as he does so, of course he's going to lose the 1v1. Blue Azor has no support whatsoever because the damage just isn't there. Jack Spectra just left. Zviru is forced to flash away. And all of the tools that Heretics should be using to win the fights are just not in the fight at all.
And even though we didn't get to see it, the MVP of that fight is undecidedly deadly. Not only was it the 1v1 versus the Ashe, it was the zoning of the Victor prior to all of that as well. It meant Zviru was not ready and not present with the team as they were engaging on the core on the top side.
Oh, Shockwave onto 2. A big chunk onto Whiten as he's locked down with a Nature's Grasp as well. Ibo about to go Mega.
They're all so scared.
So scared they can't go in, they can't deal the damage, and Barca have got very nice looking health bars.
This is actually the longest time that a Janna has ever gone without pressing R. I don't think I've seen a Fires press ult this entire game. And it's because neither one of these two teams are ever looking for full commits because they know how difficult it is to get into all of the zone control that either side has. These drafts have been so inventive and so crucial to how the game has played out that we've got to 35 minutes and we're still no closer to knowing who is going to win. There's a Cloud Drake live. It would be Soul for Heretics, but they don't care. They say we want to try and trade this for a Baron. Look at Ibo. He hasn't got Mega.
And he's running into 2 eyes, but he still has a fair few tanky stats and a fair bit of damage. The Orianna half HP, Shockwave onto 2, but it's the tanks from Heretics. It's these champions that you're not really able to take out. Deadly now in a little bit of a 1v3 situation, knocked up by the pillar, flashes back. Gale Force is just out of range of the Gnar.
And it's great. He gets out to safety. He has to use all of his escape tools, but not dying there is the most crucial thing for an AD carry. You die there, you hand over pretty much the game to Heretics. Tier 2 mid falls, and look at the mid lane. Dreedy is still pushing, still trying to take more from this. Deadly's taking the Drake, so this is a numbers disadvantage for sure, but health bars are low.
Baron will go in favor of Heretics, but their health bars are incredibly low. Hades getting locked down by the gravity field, crucial to prevent the engagement. Barca decide to back away.
It just feels like Deadly is playing such a great role in all of these fights, and we can't give him enough credit. Heretics are just struggling so much to get their picks. It just feels like none of them are actually playing their own picks individually well. They do have the right ideas more often than not, but they just can't execute upon them. And that is very uncharacteristic, of course, from a team that is coming from an EU Masters title, from a team that is coming from a Summer Split title as well in the LVP. It's just so mind-boggling.
I feel like we're glossing over this a little bit, but Heretics did get the Baron and nobody died, so everybody is actually very well poised to start pushing this game. Yes, it was a great sequence by Deadly to not end up dying, but Heretics still come out vastly on top. They're going to be able to take down this tier 2 turret in the mid lane. We've got a great push down on the bot side from Ibo. So with this Baron at their back and once again all the zone control that comes from a Heimer, Ashe and Victor, it can be very difficult to defend these turrets, and we're going to see, do they have the answer?
The Baron also compensates somewhat for a lack of execution because, of course, the minions are way harder to get through and it's way easier to siege, but Hades wants to punish anyway.
Flash forward, Whiting's dead before he even has a chance to press a button. Finally, the Monsoon is used to keep Deadly and Hades alive, but look at Dreedy on the front line. He's being chased down by Ibo, but not taken out. The first kill of the fight goes in favor of Barca, but Heretics are able to knock down the inhib tower and back away.
And unironically, the 2 cannon minions are more valuable than the Heimerdinger is because they're giving the backdoor bonus. They're the ones allowing this turret to be taken down. Whiting will more than happily sacrifice their life to allow for the base to be broken open, to give a win condition to Ibo in the side lane. If there's ever the slightest misstep in a 1v1, it gives Ibo a way to the base and a way to start forcing pressure permanently.
And Heretics just play the siege very well regardless of how the Heimerdinger ends up dying, because that's so many resources wasted for only the Heimerdinger dying. At least we see the Monsoon finally being cast, but Jack Spectra, who wants to catch Deadly?
Deadly forced to use the cleanse and dishing out a hell of a lot of damage onto Ibo. Dreedy teleporting in as well. Now Jack Spectre is isolated, flashes away, but will still go down. Surely the grenade is enough to keep it alive for the moment. No, it's the wall! And they take out Dreedy. Jack Spectre does finally drop, but it's a trade. AD carry for top laner Ibo forced away as well. These fights are on a knife's edge.
But look at the top lane. This is Viru using the Baron and using the pressure and split push that you get from this purple objective to force advantages elsewhere. This was a 4v5 for Heretics, and one that they're going to win out on in the long run. Top inhib is almost certain to fall. They don't have Baron recalls to stop this Barca. So the inhibitor turret falls before anybody's got back to base. 2 hours. Doesn't have shockwave, but with the Baron wearing off, Zwaru doesn't feel confident enough to go for it. And we're getting to the stage now, folks, where it is incredibly messy, a little bit sloppy between these two teams, because they're both challenging each other so well.
Yeah, it's just hard to play perfectly at this stage in the game. Any ultimate cooldown can change the course of a team fight, and that is what we've been seeing. The way that Dreedy is playing these team fights is absolutely incredible, but again, that's not the point at this stage in the game. The Fiora needs to be playing the side lanes because Heretics still have a big defense within these side lanes with a tier 2 up.
I want to draw your attention to the objective timers. 1 minute 20 on the Drake, 2 minutes 20 on the Baron. There is an entire minute where Heretics can play bot and mid and play their style quintessentially well to secure themselves one objective which will give them so much more maneuverability around the map to facilitate them taking a second one. If they can go Drake into Herald, they are going to be in a great spot.
And you can see what they're doing right now, getting that first move into the bottom side jungle of Barcelona, trying to set up some vision, trying to secure some picks as well. The Mikhail's Blessing once again coming in clutch to keep Hades alive.
It's just so hard for Jack Spectre to actually look for these plays, and he's basically the main engage for his team. It's not like Ibo can easily displace enemies. The arrow needs to come in, and as long as Ephias is close, there's no way that those arrows are actually going to be converted into actual kills. In any case, Heretics still gain the vision, they still force the cooldown, and they are confident enough to get the soul at this point in the game, and that could be a huge boost for them, but I still think this game is going to be decided somewhere else, because I don't think the Cloud Soul is going to outright win them the game.
5-item Caitlyn versus the 4-item Ashe. Deadly has been smurfing this entire game.
Shockwave connecting onto Blue Razor, and he is wiped off the rift. That's a Trundle dead for 50 seconds. Barca with the push in mid lane.
It's like Zwaru wasn't even there. He needs to contest these hard engages from the side of Barca. He needs to be the one punishing them and actually bursting down the front line as soon as they come in. But Dreedy was proxying the wave crucially, and Barca, they just postponed the soul for yet another 5 minutes.
Ibo thinking about a steal. If that house had stolen away the dragon, I don't know. But Barca going for White in, dead! That's huge, that's huge. 2 members off the table. The Heimer won't be alive for Baron.
Exactly, Middlecott. That is the objective that is now going to go seamlessly, you would hope, into Barca's back pocket. So 4v5 should give you the Baron at any given juncture. This late on into the game, even just the slightest amount of pressure that the Heimerdinger puts out is so impactful. There is still a world where Heretics can contest this. Enchanted Crystal Arrow isn't up, but they've got Zwaru, they've got Ibo. It's their call. Do they want to contest it? Do they want to take a fight? Or are they happy to give it up?
And if this Victor actually manages to deal his damage, they should be fine, but Hades just zones everyone away with the Nature's Grasp, and the Baron is Barca's. I don't think Heretics have a lot of choice in this regard. They just need to let it happen, not fight, and just count their blessings for the next team fight.
Don't do it. Do not do it, Ibo. I can see you with the Mega Nod. They're still hunting. The Heimer's far. It could be a numbers disadvantage, but they're just stopping recalls, actually. They're going to get this mid inhib, potentially go down to the bot one as well. Against a Baron, taking an inhib, Heretics come up huge.
You're in a 4v5, you lose the Baron, but you still recognize what you need to do on the map. That's why these guys were so hyped coming into this series. That's why they still have the gold lead at their backs, but 44 minutes in, that's completely irrelevant.
It is. It really doesn't matter whether you're ahead in gold or not. It just matters whether you're ahead in drakes. It just matters whether you're ahead in map tempo structures. And at this point, Heretics are ahead in that latter part of what I was saying, but the Dragons are still not there. Barca can still be the better team. They can still get that soul, and I wonder if we're gonna see this game boil down to an Elder Drake fight, and that's still gonna take like at least like 10 minutes, but I do think that both teams are too scared to actually fight each other head on, so one of them will probably just let the Drake happen, and the other one will get the soul, and then when the Elder comes around, we'll probably see the ending of this game.
TP,
They're just too scared.
Oh, 2 hours.
He's out.
Will get out of there. Okay, that's big. So we've just seen TP's traded. Ibo losing his, the Orianna also dropping the Summoner.
Okay, so I want to quickly touch on now what is actually going to be very important for Epheus. He's got a Mikhail's Blessing, which is on a 2-minute cooldown, which doesn't seem like too much, but versus the Ash Arrow at this late game stage, it actually matters when we use the Mikhail's Blessing. If we see Jack Spectra fish for an ulti, it gets Mikhail's. Oh my!
Oh, that's a hell of a lot of damage, but Jack Spectra can walk out with his life.
A blessing in disguise almost. They get Gale Force, so he doesn't die, so quite happy for that they don't trade anything back. But Deadly, again, 5 items completely fully built up. He feels more than confident to Gale Force in with, as you mentioned, with that rapid fire cannon, an aggressive posture, and 100% crit with a headshot. It's dangerous to play anywhere near close to the Kate.
Yeah, and this Baron Nashor is just making so much difference because finally Barca can get through these tier 2
fuel.
turrets as we see.
Oh, Ibo! Yeah, there's nothing he can do, and now you are playing a 4v5 without your top laner. Shockwave hits in the mid lane. 2 hours showing up massive, and Barca will look for the end. There goes the Trundle. They don't have a minion wave just yet, but it's roaming into the base. And in game 3 of this series, 46 minutes in, Barca look to take match point.
Heretics were just indecisive for far too long, and Barca, we weren't expecting this, but they're completely dominating the opposition.
Somehow, some way, the underdog comes